Video number 16. What happens when the man she thought would continuously mind unexpectedly quits? Difficult. The close-to-home thrill ride that follows is something few individuals genuinely comprehend. When you quit caring whether by decision or need, it sets off a progression of profound reactions that can leave her doubting all that are worth your expectations and, surprisingly, the actual relationship. These stages aren't irregular, they're well established in brain science and human association, yet this is the trick, the way you explore what is going on. Issues similarly, however much her response in the present video will separate the 10 profound stages a lady goes through. When you pull back sincerely, more critically, will investigate how applying the standards of emotionlessness, tranquility, profound control, and understanding what's inside your power can assist you with dealing with this dynamic with lucidity and reason. Stay close by on the grounds that this isn't just about connections, about self awareness and becoming. Somebody deserves admiration not through control but rather through discipline. How about we make a plunge? Number 1. The abrupt quiet. When you quit really focusing on her, the change can be frightening at first. She is surprised, practically like an unexpected shock to her existence. Your non-attendance makes a quietness that is difficult to disregard. It's in that calm void that questions start to surface to her. Why the abrupt change? What befell? The consideration I once got without exertion. This second is strong in light of the fact that it drives her to defy the truth that something she once underestimated is no longer there. What she didn't see before now feels like a vast non-appearance, and that non-attendance conveys a message she can only with significant effort excuse. As an unemotional man, your decision to step back isn't tied in with rebuffing her or playing mind games. It's a purposeful choice, established in mindfulness and the comprehension of your own worth. You're not withdrawing out of resentment or dissatisfaction, you're making space for both yourself and her to reflect. Consider it like this: by deciding to relinquish consistent pursuit or overinvestment, you're recovering energy that was maybe being spent without sufficient correspondence. Your quiet is a decision to zero in on what you have some control over: your viewpoints, your feelings, and your activities. You're doing whatever it takes not to control her reaction, yet rather you're lining up with your own standards and safeguarding your inner serenity. For her, this shift can be disrupting. She begins to ponder what she might have neglected, and in that reflection she frequently comes to understand your non-appearance wasn't a shortcoming on your part, yet a strength. It's a calm yet clear message. You're not somebody who grips frantically, rather you regard yourself enough to pull away when something feels I am adjusted. That sort of certainty is attractive and uncommon. Picture this situation: you were dependably the one starting, the one surrendering, the one appearance first, yet presently the messages are less, the calls non-existent. At first she could dismiss it, accepting it's brief, yet as the days go by the quietness develops stronger. She starts to feel the heaviness of the non-appearance and begins to ponder, did I misjudge him? Did I underestimate his presence in this space? You're not missing your conscious, you're deciding to put resources into yourself, whether that is through self improvement, leisure activities, or basically partaking in the opportunity of not overthinking another person's activities. And incidentally, it's generally expected in your non-appearance that she feels your presence the most. In the end, this cycle isn't only groundbreaking for her, it's likewise profoundly enabling for you. You're advising yourself that your value isn't attached to the amount you give or the amount you're required. Your value exists freely, and it sparkles considerably more brilliant when you hold it immovably inside yourself. Number 2. Letting herself know it's nothing. She lets herself know it's nothing, getting over the change with contemplations like he's presumably occupied, or perhaps I'm overthinking this. Refusal is her approach to keeping away from the uneasiness that accompanies detecting your withdrawal. It's simpler to clutch the deception that all is great than to confront the agitating thought that your consideration could never again be there. In this stage she might search for enlightens, replay past discussions, her psyche, and quest for consolation in your way of behaving. Yet here's what: your quietness says a lot. When you quit making sense of redressing or pursuing, you're giving her space to defy her own sentiments. In minutes like these, it's really not necessary to focus on messing around or being manipulative. It's tied in with venturing back and letting the regular equilibrium of the relationship unfurl. When you pick quietness matched with poise, it turns into an apparatus for development, not evasion. You're showing her that you regard yourself enough to keep up with your limits, and that you won't power somebody to esteem your presence. You've forever been the one to start to cause her to feel unique, to console her when she appeared to be far off, yet presently you've moved your concentrate internal. You're seeking after your objectives, remaining made and not allowing your feelings to manage everything. At first she probably won't know what to think about it. The shift could feel unfamiliar in any event. Disrupting, but in that space she begins to reflect, she starts to think about what's transformed. She could miss the consideration she once underestimated. As Marcus Aurelius said, burn through no additional time quarreling over what a decent man ought to be. Your quietness, when established in self-confidence and credibility, is an impression of that you're deciding to act with aim, not to respond sincerely. The key here is limitation. Fight the temptation to account for yourself, to fill the quiet, or to pursue approval. Believe that your activities will impart undeniably more than your words at any point could. When you conduct yourself with calm certainty and spotlight on turning into your best self, she can feel the distinction, and whether she says it, she sees. Recall, this isn't about whether she returns or acknowledges what she's lost, it's about you standing firm in your worth, realizing that your consideration is something exceptional, not something to be given wildly or without common regard. It's a strong shift when you quit attempting to control her response and on second thought center around dominating your own. That is where genuine strength lies. Considering this dynamic can be an extraordinary. Second, what do you think about the force of quietness and self-confidence in connections? Have you at any point encountered the shift that comes when you focus on your own development over looking for outer approval? I'd very much want to hear your viewpoint. Leave a remark underneath sharing your contemplations, or essentially type strength peacefully on the off chance that this message impacted you. Your appearance could rouse other people who are exploring comparative circumstances, so go ahead. And number 3, the overthinking winding. This is the second her contemplations start to twisting unexpectedly. She's in her mind replaying discussions, examining each message each second. Did I accomplish something wrong? She ponders. Is he seeing another person? Imagine a scenario where he's truly finished with me. The inquiries twirl around her psyche like a tempest she apparently can't quiet, and that vulnerability, it begins to burden her vigorously. You see, when you pull back, maybe you've moved the unique, what she once underestimated. Your consideration, your work currently feels subtle, and it makes her beginning looking for answers she could attempt to sort out. What changed? Was it her? Was it a normal thing for she, or is there another person? That uncertainty can make a strong, profound twisting, and it tends to be overpowering for her. Yet here's where emotionlessness becomes possibly the most important factor. Her close-to-home response, her unrest. It's not yours to determine. You're not answerable for fixing the tempest in another person's brain. Rather, your emphasis ought to be on staying cool and grounded in light of the fact that when you prevent looking for approval from her reactions, you recover your tranquility. Consider it this way, her whining isn't about you, it's about her. It's her grappling with the adjustment of energy, the deficiency of control she feels, and this is where you, as a man grounded in indifferent standards, should hold your middle. Don't respond, don't pursue, and don't attempt to deal with her feelings. Rather, remind you, at the end of the day, that your healthy self-appreciation worth doesn't come from how she sees you or how she feels at this time. It comes from inside, from knowing what your identity is, and a big motivator for you. Envision a quiet ocean during a tempest. The surface might look tumultuous, yet far beneath the water stays still, unaffected. That is the way you ought to move toward this. Let her tempest rage on a superficial level, yet don't allow it to pull you into the disarray. Stay composed and consistent presence. It's not necessary to focus on being cold or pitiless. It's tied in with safeguarding your tranquility and understanding that few out of every odd, profound response needs a reaction. When you quit minding in the manner she expects, it compels her to reflect. It could try and cause her to understand the worth of what she had yet didn't completely appreciate, and in that space you find lucidity about what you need, what you merit, and whether the association really serves both of you. Recollect, your job isn't to fix or pursue, it's to stay unfaltering, grounded, and consistent with yourself. That is where your solidarity lies. That is where your power is. Number 4. Scrutinizing her own decisions. When you quit really focusing on a lady, or possibly quit showing that you do, something huge starts to move. It's not just about your non-appearance or the absence of consideration, it's about the space your withdrawal makes. In that space, self-reflection frequently flourishes. She begins to scrutinize her own way of behaving. Did I underestimate him? Was I excessively oblivious to see the indications of his withdrawal? These considerations could whirl to her making a degree of thoughtfulness she hadn't encountered before. Maybe your quiet holds up a mirror, and interestingly, she's compelled to defy her own job in the dynamic between you. This interaction can be awkward for her. She might replay past cooperations, taking apart minutes where she could have been pompous, reserved, or preoccupied. It's captivating that this isn't something you compel her to do by deciding to step back. You've made a